Paula Pell plays Gloria, the hard-working one, in the new Peacock comedy series Girls5eva. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby, here to ask you, Paula, how are you like and how are you not like Gloria?
Oh, well, I'm a lazy idiot. No, I am hardworking too. I'm a lot like Gloria that way. I tend to sometimes overwork, and then sometimes I go into a zone in between where I just stare off and people have to check my pulse because I get so shut down. But I think, Gloria, I know nothing about dental stuff, and I actually hate going to the dentist. So I do not share her dental acumen. But I am an earthy old les. And I have been divorced from my first wife. I'm remarried. So we don't know if Gloria is going to get remarried, or even if she remarries her ex, which would be fun because it's my wife now who played my ex.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But you didn't have the first divorce in your state, did you? Because that was
I didn't have the first, no, but I probably didn't have that many after that because we searched for years. I mean, it was during that era where you just could not get married, in any national way. So we ended up getting married in Connecticut. And I remember, living in New York and feeling very open in New York. But then when we went to this little town in Connecticut that was actually marrying gay people, I remember going in a jewelry store, and we weren't planning on getting rings yet, but we were getting married that weekend, and we were kind of like, should we get rings? And we're in this little, very, very conservative little jewelry store, and this older couple was like, the guy in the back had his little jeweler's, loop, and he was like looking through the thing like something in an old movie at us, like, why are those old ladies, those two sisters, talking about marrying each other? Yeah, we did it. We figured it out. It was actually funny because we went to a hotel that was also the woman that owned it. It was a justice of the peace. So I think her dog was our witness, which is just perfect way to go.
What for you has been the biggest stretch or challenge, or you found the trickiest thing about playing Gloria on the show?
Well, singing is a challenge only because I've sung all my life, but I've had this gap where I haven't been singing. I love to harmonize. So the harmonizing, I always felt very comfortable with those gals, like to do all our songs where we're really harmonizing. And I'm usually that solid alto line. And I always felt comfortable that. It was when I would have like a solo, or that sometimes I would just be like, oh, I don't know if I can do this anymore. But the hip hop dancing was no problem at all. No, it was actually hell on earth. It was super fun and good for me to move my can, but it was really like taking an old car out of a garage that you've been renovating for a long time and like get rid of the mice inside it and just be like, let's move this rusty old thing.
Yeah. What was it like that first time you had to do a hip hop scene in the show?
What was so hard was we had to do it with masks up until right when we're shooting. So we'd go have a rehearsal, and it was in the winter, but then in the winter, how buildings, especially in New York, are so overheated. So it would just be like super crazy hot in some hallway of a venue that we were shooting at. And then we just find a hallway and start dancing and with mask on and everything, trying to do it. When you're in normal times and you're learning dances, it's like, I'm always a little slow learning it, but you have a big mirror and you all can do it together. And a lot of times we had to split it up because of COVID. So we'd learn it on video, and then we'd do it in person a little bit, and then we'd do it together. But when you're doing it together as a group, it's so much easier. I mean, singing too, if we had to learn all our parts separate and then all of a sudden shoot it, it was harder. God, it was fun.
Yeah. What what for you was the like was there something that was particularly fun or memorable, like your favorite scene to shoot in the show?
I love my scenes with Busy because I loved the friendship they wrote in with us. And I felt kind of like what we liked about it and we had fun doing was it was very nurturing. It was like you could tell back in the day that I was always looking out for her because she was a little bit easy to take advantage of. And with her husband, I think it was an interesting thing for us to kind of have nuance in, to not just have like we think her husband's gay, but I don't want to be the gay person bashing her husband for being gay or outing him. So it really was so nice because it was written so much about my worry that she's not living her life. So it was like, you never see him. He's never around. You deserve love. You deserve affection. You deserve all that. Even though he had a very sexy haircut and his bang that went over one eye and an atrophied eye, which was one of my favorite details in this entire production, was that he had a slightly atrophied. I have a lot of rescue dogs, and sometimes you'll look on the website for the rescue dogs and it would be like, he has one tiny eye, but it's no problem for him. That's exactly what Kev has, is he just has an eye that didn't have to do any work for many years because it was behind the bang, which should also be his autobiography title.
I like it. But like the show is about a girls group getting back together, a comeback of sorts. And this isn't necessarily a comeback for a particular group, but it is a group of predominantly women on the show working together. How important is that sort of collaborative process between you guys on the cast, and how does that sort of work?
What amazed us was, from the very beginning, I mean, Tina's one of my oldest and dearest friends, both in comedy, professionally and personally. She's always been very, very close, dear friend to me. So when she called for us to do this, and then she assembled, and Meredith Scardino and Jeff Richmond, when they assembled this group, we kind of, some of us knew some of us, like I didn't know Sarah, I knew Renee, and I barely knew Busy. And we all kind of knew one of us. So it would be like, oh, I've worked with you, but I haven't worked with you. And I don't know if it was even deeper because of COVID and because of all the rules of like, we couldn't do certain things. I mean, your normal thing is if you're doing a show where you're playing four ladies who are trying to have a comeback in their 40s from doing a 90s group back in the day, you go out to dinner. It's like the first week after you're rehearsing and shooting, you're like, let's go to like one of those long dinners where we go deep. We get to know each other, and everyone by the end of the night has told everyone their life stories, and we couldn't do any of that. So a lot of it was very much on set. We would have a lot of little intimate moments when we're shooting. We'd sit, at lunch and try to like be as close to each other as we could and still stay safe and still have this little camaraderie. But we just fell into it. It was really, I've worked with a lot of people that I've kind of fallen hard for in just that heart friend where you're like, oh, this is going to be a person I'm going to work with. Or as a writer, when I would meet another writer, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a person I'm going to be friends with the rest of my life. And it just felt so good that we couldn't help but constantly be nauseatingly excited about how much we loved each other. So we just always be like, this is so fun and we love each other so much. And then they started really saying that they could feel that, when we'd shoot, it was like that scene, you could really feel the love around with you guys. And especially the storyline of us saying like, we've gotten ripped off so much. We don't even own our own songs. Let's write our own song. When we sang that first time of like our own song, it was like very emotional. We all got a little choked up. It's really sweet.
Yeah, like with ensemble comedy, like it's hard to be funny unless the other people in the ensemble are helping you be funny and supporting each other.
Absolutely.
Can you think of a moment maybe from the show where you guys sort of helped each other be funny?
Oh, I think in basically every scene, there quickly grew a trust that if one of us was sort of, you know, as they say, chewing the scenery and making a meal out of their moment. Like everyone was there, you know, it wasn't, I've been in things before or been a writer on things before where you see someone get inspired as an actor where they kind of want to really go for it in some joke or some funny moment physically or just vocally or whatever. And you can see sometimes that sometimes the recipient, the other actor is kind of like they're trying to get their moment, you know, and they resent it. And I feel like with this, it was just whenever you would really just, we tried to surprise each other if we were going to do something that, you know, when we were getting out of the van, I don't think it ended up in the final cut, and it didn't even matter because it made a shooting having so much fun and laughing. But I came out of the van backwards, and because of I have knee replacements, it's really hard for me to like step down out of things, just like straight step down like I used to. So I kind of have to like go out backwards. And I yelled like, I'm coming out breach. And I kept yelling, I'm coming out breach. And, you know, it was just one of those giggle fit, like everyone had that moment in that show where they would just really go off on something. I think one of the hardest times we laughed was when, because you read the script, but then you don't hear the actors do it until maybe at the table read, but then there's weeks after that they're rewriting it and it changes. And we had a moment with the Stephen Colbert when he's the songwriter, where we're talking about our old songs, and Renee just says, "What about Seize the Tonight?" And she just came out with that melody and sang "Seize the Tonight." And I didn't even remember reading that in the script, and we lost it. Like it took a while. It was like church laughter. It took a while to get back from that.
It's Yeah, it's such a like Meredith Crow is such an absurd, like silly world, and you guys just need to commit to it. Like, you know.
And I do have to say a lot of times I always said that I wrote at SNL, I wrote Joyful Losers. I loved losers that like kind of didn't know they were losers. So they were like really going for it, you know, and I feel like we are joyful losers in this, and I have nothing to do with writing this. And I'm so excited to be handed these like solid gold scripts. But what I think they did really fantastic in a fantastic way was to have this sort of pedigree of, you know, Tina, Jeff, Meredith, like they write jokes at a crazy speed. And so you're watching an old 30 Rock and you're like, good Lord, if I had a counter of how many jokes are in this one character's one little paragraph. And that's how this is written really a lot of times, but they still found a really great way to have this sort of grounded heart in it, which I love because we're absurd, but then there's moments where we're like just excited about, should we do this? And it's grounded, it feels real. And I always just want everything to have a little bit of grounded. I love absurdity, and I've written certainly some insane things at the show at SNL, but I really never liked when absurdity was without the heart part, you know?
Yeah.
Without the vulnerability. I didn't like if it wasn't vulnerable. It was just sort of snarky, absurd. I never enjoyed that kind of comedy myself. So I love this kind of comedy.
Yeah, and I think in this particular type of show, it feeds each other well. Like, you know, you caring about the characters helps it be more funny when they're landing the jokes, but then it also, you know, the fact that, you know, you've been laughing with and at them means that you care about what happens to them for those warm moments.
Because a lot of times now in streaming, you do binge it. And, you know, shows that I've watched that I binged that I'm like, I can't freaking believe I am still up and it's 4 a.m. and I still have to watch the end of this. I have to get to the end. And I feel like that's when someone has done something right in terms of laying out a character that you really do care. Like you're like, I can't sleep until I know if this person's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I really have enjoyed that aspect of it, that I know I've had a lot of people on, you know, online and just my friends when they've seen the show now, where they'll text and say they've also had that emotional feeling of it, that they cared about Gloria and they cared about everybody. And my niece always calls it heart itch, which I love that phrase. is she'll say something has a good heart itch, like a photo of my mom, her grandma, or like we'll find some crazy old picture of our, our little nephews when they were little, and she'll be like, oh my God, there's so much heart itch. And so I always think of that when I think of how to describe that feeling of vulnerability, but still be able to be a hard joke, just really funny, hard, dirty, ridiculous, every kind of hard joke you can. They're throwing it in there.
Mm. We're on awards.
Some funny songs.
Oh,
some
yeah.
Fantastic songs. Yeah.
Yeah. We're an awards website at Gold Derby. We love our awards, and there's a few award winners on your show. There's a Grammy winner, a Tony winner. You are the Emmy winner in the cast because you won for writing SNL in 2002, which is actually really nice because you won that award with Tina Fey, who produces the show. So
it was so funny because we had such low self-esteem because for so long we just never ever won. But when you would do they'd always submit, and then SNL would always, usually at that era, they would usually get nominated for best writing. And then we would go and it would be the whole shebang, and you get an outfit, and it's really fun because we got to go to LA for a weekend, and it was, good smelling soap in the hotel, and it was all fancy pants, and we'd just all be really full of ourselves, and we'd all go out and go to and then we'd lose. And then we'd all go to somebody's hotel room and drink a lot and be like, well, like we didn't expect it.
And Paula, I assume joyful losers, right? You were joyful.
Also, always joyful losers. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Very good. Yes, absolutely. We were joyful, but we also would get exhausted with we were thrilled to go. But then when you do go to those things, especially Emmys, it is, and I can't even imagine with the Oscars, but it's a lot over a period of time that you're preparing for and all that. And then you go and it's kind of over in a minute if you lose, and you're kind of like, yeah. But if you win, it's a super fun night, which we didn't expect to win at all. I mean, you hear us, I've often looked back on that video online. If you look up that year, I think it was 2001 or 2002. And it's you watch, Bernie Mac gave us the award, and you watch him say, the folks at Saturday Night Live, and we screamed so loudly because we were like, what? And some people missed it, and their spouses were so pissed at them because they went out to go get a drink in the lobby, because it's like, we're not going to win. We never thought we would win ever. And that's the only time we've won. And other times that we thought we were having this amazing season and we were for sure going to win, and we didn't win. That was when we were just like, oh God, that was so hard. But oh my God, it was so fun that night because it is just that cartoon thing of when you win the award, they're just like, oh, well, what parties do you want to go to? Well, all you have to do is just bring your Emmy, just carry it around. So I have all these pictures of us back in the day of we're just all carrying around, and we all went on the plane with them, and they are such sharp awards. Those wings are you could literally gut someone with those wings, and they could never let you do that now. They'd make you ship it or whatever. Yeah. But I adore having that award, and I don't show it off, but I love having it because it is of an era where we just never thought in a million years we would get it. And it just made us really happy that night. It was really a magical, hilarious night. I lost my virginity that night.
Really? No. I was like, whoa, an exclusive.
A lot of different kinds of virginities. I lost my Emmy.
Your Emmy virginity. Yeah. Yes. There you go. No, very good. And I'm sure, back then, 2001, 2002, who was worried about airplanes?
Exactly. Nobody. The answer was nobody. Yeah. The answer, we were talking the other day, when I was younger, I moved to Orlando when I was 15. And when I think of all the times in the Orlando airport that all my family would come to say goodbye to me at the gate, and we'd all be just hugging as I'm going on the plane, or when I went away to college, there was just when you think of it, anybody could switch and go okay, here, take my ticket. No one's paying attention to who's who. And but I'm not glad why we changed those rules, but I'm glad those rules are changed.
Yeah. Well, Paula, thanks so much for talking with us today about Girls5eva.
Thank you, Matt.
All the best of luck for the success for the show moving forward, for Emmy Awards coming up. Hopefully you guys will do really well or be joyful losers. And people watching this interview can go to goldderby.com where they can make their own awards predictions, join the discussions in our forums, and watch other interviews with award contenders. Thanks for chatting, Paul.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was really fun. And from your lips to Peacock's ears, may we keep doing this, because we have really enjoyed the hell out of it. So we want to keep doing it.